What if I told you there's a secret game on a private web where billionaires don't bet on horses, or stocks, they bet on people, real people. In 2021, cybersecurity experts uncovered fragments of encrypted streams on the dark web, showing what appeared to be incentive-based human behavior experiments, where anonymous donors sent large sums of money to random people, just to watch how they'd react. No names, no identities, only rules: do not ask where it came from, do not stop playing, and one final instruction: smile, you're being watched. It was the kind of Tuesday that made time feel like it was standing still. The sky outside was a moody gray, heavy with rain that tapped gently against the windows of the Maplewood Diner, a tiny, blink-and-you-miss-it spot off Route 87 in small-town Ohio. Inside, the smell of burnt coffee and sizzling bacon lingered in the air. The sound of the fridge and the clink of silverware were the only sounds breaking the monotony. Lexi Ramos wiped down table 12 for the third time in an hour, not because it needed cleaning, but because it was the only way to keep from collapsing. She was 27, running on 2 hours of sleep, and living off caffeine and sheer willpower. Her shoes were soaked, her back ached. And in her apron pocket was a final notice from the hospital: pay the balance or lose treatment. Her 6-year-old daughter, Maya, needed another round of therapy, and Lexi had nothing left to give. The bell above the door jingled. A man walked in, alone, silent, soaked from the rain. He wore a dark hoodie with the hood pulled low, obscuring most of his face. He didn't glance around, didn't speak, didn't smile, just walked straight to booth 6 and sat down, like he'd been there 100 times before. Lexi grabbed a menu and approached him. "Welcome to Maplewood, can I get you something?" He didn't look up, just said slowly, "Coffee, black." She brought it within a minute. He nodded, barely touched the cup, and stared out the window as if he's waiting for something, or someone. Then, just as quietly as he came, he stood, dropped a folded receipt onto the table, and walked out the door. No eye contact, no goodbye. Lexi went to clear the table and nearly dropped her tray. On top of the check was a crisp envelope, thick and heavy. She opened it cautiously. Inside, stacked neatly, were $10,000 in $100 bills. Her hands shook. "No way," she whispered. "Lex," called out by Jenna, one of the other waitresses, peering over, "you win the lottery or something?" Lexi showed her the envelope. Jenna's eyes widened. "That has to be fake, Monopoly money or something." The manager, Carl, waddled over from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a grease-stained towel. "What's going on?" Lexi handed him the check. Carl whistled when he saw the tip line. 10 grand, on a $4 coffee. He looked outside, but the mystery man had already vanished into the rain. Lexi herself couldn't believe it. "Should we, I don't know, call someone, or return it?" Carl gave her a long look, then shrugged. "Ain't our job to track down silent saints? If he left it, he meant it. Bank it before he changes his mind." She clutched the envelope all the way home. Half of her screamed it was a mistake, the other half whispered it was a blessing. And when she finally slid it under her pillow that night, watching Maya sleep beside her, she allowed herself to believe, just for a moment, that something good had finally happened. The next day, it happened again. Same man, same time, same booth, same coffee, black, untouched. This time, Lexi didn't say a word when she dropped off the cup, neither did he, but when she returned 5 minutes later, another envelope sat waiting for her, identical to the first. $10,000. Her heart pounded, her mind raced. Was it some kind of joke, a hidden camera prank, or a test? But her rent was almost overdue, Maya's treatment was on pause, and right now, those bills didn't look like trouble. They looked like salvation. Lexi took the envelope. She said nothing to her coworkers, not this time. She just slid it into her apron, smiled politely at a customer waving for a refill, and walked off. Because deep down, she knew something wasn't right, but desperation doesn't wait for answers, desperation cashes the check. By the end of the week, the routine was locked in like clockwork. Every day, same man, same time, same booth, same untouched black coffee. Every day, an envelope, always sealed, always thick, always labeled with the same handwritten note, "For service." Lexi stopped asking herself why, because every time she peeled that envelope open and saw those crisp $100 bills stacked inside, exactly $10,000, it quieted the panic in her chest. For the first time in years, the math made sense. Rent, food, hospital bills, suddenly, Nothing was overdue. Still, the weirdness began to creep in, slowly, like a fog that rolls in so light you don't even notice you're surrounded until you can't see 2 feet in front of you. It started with her car. She parked it behind the diner every night. Muddy, low on gas, the rear bumper held on with zip ties, but one morning, she came out and blinked in disbelief. It was spotless, washed, detailed, full tank, even the coffee cup she left in the cup holder was gone. She didn't think much of it until it happened again, and again. Then came the packages. Boxes began showing up at her doorstep. No return address, no notes, just luxury. A pair of Gucci sunglasses, a silver Tag Heuer watch, a brand new iPhone, still shrink-wrapped. At first, she thought someone sent them by mistake, but the shipping labels, all had her name, spelled perfectly. Then came the letter. Plain white envelope, slipped under her door in the middle of the night, no stamp, no postmark, just one line typed neatly on a piece of cardstock: "You're doing great, don't ask questions." She read it 5 times, her heart thudded. She checked the locks on every door and window before going to bed that night. By day 10, Lexi had deposited exactly $100,000. The bank teller no longer bothered to act surprised. He just smiled nervously, asked no questions, and handed her a receipt. Back at the diner, things were changing. Carl, her manager, the same guy who told her to bank it before he changes his mind, walked out suddenly one afternoon, no warning, no goodbye, just left his keys on the counter and drove off. Her co-workers grew distant, they gossiped behind her, they stared. Lexi knew they noticed the changes, her new clothes, her glow, the way she now smiled like someone who had hope, but the mood had shifted. The tips were amazing, but so was the tension. Still, Lexi told herself it was a miracle. A 1 in a billion stroke of luck. Maybe she had saved a billionaire's dog once and forgot. Maybe karma was finally coming through. She kept telling herself that, until the camera. It was subtle, so subtle, she almost missed it. The man, her silent visitor, always sat the same way, elbows on the table, hood low, coffee barely touched, but now she noticed. He always had a camcorder in his hand, one of those old-school handhelds, the lens angled just enough to catch her in frame. He wasn't filming the diner, he was filming her. Lexi's stomach dropped, her breath grew shallow, she started feeling watched even when she wasn't at work. Then, late one night as she undressed at home, she reached behind her apron and found something tucked in the seam. A tiny black microphone. It was hidden carefully, stitched right under the lining. Lexi stared at it in her hand, cold and shaking. The next morning, another letter arrived. It was thicker than the first. Typed on the same stark white cardstock which says, "Time to earn it," instructions inside, "Say nothing." Lexi didn't sleep that night. She just sat there, staring at the unopened envelope, wondering what came next, and for the first time since the money started coming, she wasn't just scared of losing it, she was scared of keeping it. The envelope was heavier this time. Lexi stared at it for a long time before opening it. Her fingers trembled as she peeled back the flap. Inside, there were no bills, no "for service" this time, just a single Polaroid photo, a neatly folded slip of paper, and one line typed in that same sterile black font. She unfolded the note first. It read, "Invite him to your table, give him the coffee, leave the back door unlocked at 11:47 p.m., you won't be harmed." Her heart dropped. She picked up the Polaroid. It was a grainy snapshot of a middle-aged man, tan jacket, salt and pepper beard, standing in front of a bus stop, someone she had never seen before. Lexi's breath caught in her throat. Was this real? Was this a setup, a prank, or something worse? The diner was closed that evening, but Lexi sat at the counter long after everyone else had gone. She held her phone in her hand, hovering over 911, ready to press. Her thumb trembled above the screen. Then, suddenly, her phone went black. The screen flickered once, then lit up with a chilling message, "Don't ruin this." She dropped it like it was on fire. Lexi paced the kitchen, chewed her nails down to the skin, and kept checking the clock. 11:30 p.m., the diner was silent, the world outside soaked in fog. 11:45 p.m., she stood in the alley behind the diner, her back to the rear entrance. Cold air bit through her jacket, her hands trembled. 11:47 p.m., right on the dot, 2 men rounded the corner. Dressed in black, no words, no hesitation, they gave her a curt nod as they passed. Lexi stepped aside and watched as one of them opened the back door without effort. like he'd done it 1,000 times. They went inside, the door clicking shut behind them. She held her breath, no shouting, no footsteps, no breaking glass, no sound at all, just silence. 5 minutes later, they re-emerged, still silent, still composed. One of them glanced at her, eyes unreadable, and gave her a short nod. Then they walked away into the shadows, swallowed by the fog. Lexi stood frozen for a full minute before she worked up the nerve to go inside. The diner looked exactly as it had before, coffee cups still stacked, chairs still upside down on the tables, the air was still and untouched. Booth 6 was empty, the man from the Polaroid, nowhere to be seen, no blood, no mess, no struggle, nothing. She checked every room, every cabinet, every closet. It was like no one had been there at all. The next morning, she woke up to a knock at the door, another box, another envelope. Inside the box, $50,000 in cash. Inside the envelope, one sentence: "You're promoted, let's see how far you'll go." Lexi sat down slowly, the weight of it all crashing onto her shoulders. The money, the gifts, the filming, the silence, it wasn't a blessing, it was a test, and now, someone, somewhere, was watching to see what she would do next. Because this wasn't about coffee anymore, this was about control, about obedience, and about how far someone would go, when they had everything to gain, and everything to lose. Lexi looked at the stack of cash, then at her reflection in the window, and for the first time, she didn't recognize the woman staring back. Lexi couldn't sleep, not with $50,000 in her kitchen drawer and a note that sounded more like a threat than a reward. "You are promoted." Promoted to what? The questions were finally louder than the money. So Lexi did what she hadn't dared to before. She followed him. The next time the hooded man came in, same table, same coffee, same envelope. Lexi didn't go straight to the bank. She waited, watched from across the street, pretending to fumble with her keys while he left the diner. He moved differently outside, faster, more cautious, like he knew someone might be watching, but Lexi had nothing left to lose, not anymore. She trailed him down 4 blocks, through a back alley, into a rusted stairwell that led to an abandoned office building. The elevator didn't work, but he didn't take it. He slipped into a service door marked authorized only. Lexi waited until it was clear, then crept in behind him. Inside the building, silence. The walls were peeling, the lights barely worked. But deep inside the building, she heard something, a faint sound, dozens of cooling fans, blinking monitors, and strange antennae bathed in an eerie blue glow. She stepped into a room filled with servers, and in the middle of it all, a screen, still glowing from a live feed. At first, she didn't understand what she was looking at, but then she saw herself, behind the counter at the diner, pouring coffee, a replay. And next to the footage was a live chat box. Dozens, maybe hundreds of users, typing in real time. Usernames like Omega Wolf, Goldstake 99, Mr. Crypto Carnage, laughing, commenting, betting, like a sports bet live chat room. She actually drank from the mic'd coffee. $500 says she doesn't notice the GPS next. Let's make her serve the guy from the bus stop, who's in. I'll tip another $10K if she leaves the back door open. She's perfect. Lexi's blood turned cold. It wasn't a coincidence, it wasn't random, it was a game. She dug deeper. A folder labeled Lexi Ramos sat open on a nearby desk. Inside, dozens of photos, timestamps, transcripts of her conversations, every package she received, every moment she cried alone in her car, every assignment. There was a name for it. The Generosity Game is an exclusive, anonymous dark web broadcast, a billionaire-funded experiment in manipulation, where rich viewers didn't just watch people, they controlled them. Tempting them with unimaginable money, watching them struggle, squirm, and obey, betting on their morality like it was a horse race. Lexi was their star. She had been the main attraction for weeks. And the worst part, she had never agreed to any of it. That's when she saw the footage, not of her, but of others, other waitresses, janitors, delivery drivers, single moms, struggling artists, real people. Some clips were happy, someone receiving a new car, another person jumping for joy with cash, but other videos were not. She watched as one girl walked into a warehouse after reading an envelope. She never came back out. A man was filmed with a blindfold and duct tape, trembling, begging. The feed cut out before the end. Lexi backed away from the screen, her heart pounded in her ears. This wasn't a game, this was a human casino, and the final level was survival. She was just a pawn, a performance, a puppet in a show for people who saw money as entertainment and human lives as expendable content. And now they were watching her every move, waiting to see if she'd play the next round, or if she'd try to escape. Either way, the game wasn't over, not even close. It was early, too early for the mail, but there it was, a single cream-colored envelope resting on Lexi's doorstep, heavy with finality, no stamp, no handwriting, just a small wax seal with a symbol she didn't recognize, 2 interlocking circles with a key in the center. She knew what it meant. Inside, a check made out to Lexi Ramos for $1 million, no strings, no signatures, just a number that felt too big to hold, and a phone, a cheap, black burner phone, still warm, like someone had turned it on seconds ago. It buzzed. A message appeared: final choice, vanish now and take the money, or meet us, you're ready. Lexi didn't know what ready meant. She didn't feel ready, she felt cracked open, hollow, filled with questions that no amount of zeros could answer. Her hand trembled as she opened the second part of the envelope. It was a single sheet of printer paper, typed in a neat, cold font. Your daughter's hospital bills were paid in full, 6 months ago. Before the first tip, Lexi froze. 6 months ago, but the tip started a month ago. She thought back, to those long, sleepless nights working double shifts, the stack of bills piling up, the impossible debt from her daughter Mia's heart condition. She thought that's what started it, her desperation, her vulnerability, but no, she hadn't been chosen because she was desperate. She had been watched long before that. They'd seen her struggle, calculated her breaking point, moved the pieces, paid off the debt, and then, they made her dance. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video. Lexi's breath caught in her throat. It was Mia, her daughter, sitting outside her elementary school, laughing with a friend, safe, unharmed. But with the angle of the video, it wasn't from school security footage, it was live, filmed from across the street. Lexi looked up and around her neighborhood. The sun was out, birds chirped, kids rode bikes nearby, but suddenly, the world felt cold. A follow-up message dropped, typed in gray on black: the game isn't over, it just changed levels. Lexi gripped the burner phone, her jaw clenched. This wasn't about money anymore, this was about control, about them reminding her that they were still watching, that they were always watching, and now, they wanted her to become something else. A player, a handler, a recruiter. She didn't know. All she knew was, the final choice wasn't about what she would do next, it was about who she would become next. She stared at the $1 million check, at the little girl laughing on the screen, at the envelope that had changed her life, and for the first time, Lexi understood something deeper. She had never really been a contestant, she had been the test, and now, someone had decided she passed. 2 weeks later, Lexi cashed out the money. She took her daughter. She vanished without a trace, no goodbye, no forwarding address, not even a social media footprint. Lexi Ramos was gone, just like that. But last week, a new waitress clocked in at that same small-town diner, fresh face, same apron, just trying to make ends meet, and on her second shift, he showed up, same man, same booth, same blank stare behind the coffee cup he never drinks, and when she cleared his check, she found it. An envelope, labeled, for service, inside, $20,000, it's happening again, the game never ends, the players just change. Welcome to the generosity game, where kindness is currency, and you are the entertainment.